Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Congressman Mark Pocan on the line with us, taking your calls. You can tweet him at Rep Mark Pocan. Send him a tweet saying thanks, for being on the show, if nothing else. Obviously, better to speak to the issues, but good guy. Pocan.house.gov is his website. And Kevin, listening on KTRC 1260 in Santa Fe, New Mexico. You are on the air with Congressman Pocan. Kevin.
Thank you, Congressman Pocan, for taking my call.
Just give him a few years.
And for all the work that you're doing to support the progressive causes, and also the news that you bring us. This access is not what we're hearing on the corporate media. You seem to have answered the questions I had about what you would support in the Affordable Care Act. So I would ask you, is there any mechanism by which we might create our own CBO-style score on some of these Medicare for All or public option bills?
Isn't that also, just to add to Kevin's question, Congressman, isn't that essentially what, who's the anti-tax lobbyist here on K Street? Grover Norquist. Isn't that essentially what Grover Norquist did with regard to tax policy, as he created his own little scoring system inside his little, lobbying shop and turned it into a national thing?
Yeah, I think it's one of the many things that he's done, and he's effective. I've actually had personal conversations with him because we actually agree a little on prison reform. I think they look at it from a cost perspective. We look at it from a human perspective. But Kevin, one of the things we do in the Progressive Caucus budget that we put out, we work with the Economic Policy Institute, but there are also other groups in Washington that do some of that. So we actually do get some assessments. The problem is the CBO. You have to have a bill going through to get that CBO score. In some cases, it has to be structured in a certain way to get that dollar figure. But EPI, Economic Policy Institute, has done that with us on our budget. And that's why we have great numbers on it. And that's why the budget is so well respected. Last time we got a majority of the Democratic caucus to vote for the Progressive Caucus budget because we've done the homework. And then that's our framework for everything else we talk about through the session.
And then tragically, I don't think anybody who watches the corporate media, the mainstream media, even knows that the budget is there, much less that the majority of Democrats support it. It's just this is just a travesty.
One thing, Tom, that is, I think, positive is a lot of the ideas we put in there, we find a session or two later become mainstream Democratic Party ideas, including things like the financial transaction fee and debt-free college and some other ideas. So at least, even if we're not getting the attention on it, we are getting the attention that makes it become a reality in a bigger, broader way. Just it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, you just never know where the ripples are going to land when you drop that pebble in the water. Patrick in Los Angeles, listening on Sirius XM. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yes, Congressman. Thanks for showing up on the position. You're great. I'm interested in the House bill that just passed that changes the overtime laws for people, that changes them to comp pay instead of getting overtime pay from the employers.
Yeah, Patrick, so your question is great. So this week, the Republicans put forward a bill, and they made it sound like it's something to be friendly to employees, when in reality, of course, it's not. What it does is, instead of getting overtime pay for working overtime, it sets up a structure where you'd basically get comp time instead, which for some people is fine. And some people can negotiate that with an employer. But in general, for a lot of people, they need the overtime if they're going to work the extra hours and not be with their family and not able to take another job. And this is trying to do in lieu of additional pay, giving you time off. But, honestly, if you're working a job and you need the money, that time off doesn't help you feed your family, and you can't take another job because you don't have predictable hours in this situation.
This is unpaid time off, right?
Right. That's your comp time is. So instead of getting that overtime pay that you should have accrued and got paid in your paycheck, instead you're trading it off for time off, comp time. But again, so you get a Friday off in the future. What are you going to go do? Sell your plasma in order to make some extra money? I mean, that's kind of the alternative with the plan they put out there. So it's really going after workers who have deserved overtime pay, as the law says, and provides a route to let employers get around from actually paying their responsibility.
Dave in Huffman Estates, Illinois, listening on WCPT. Dave, you're on the air with Congressman Mark Pocan.
Okay, thank you, Congressman. Are you familiar with H.R. 1419 that Congressman David Young of Iowa has proposed?
You'd have to tell me more about the name. There's thousands of bills introduced already.
Okay, it's to authorize the Cold War Victory Medal for all the vets who served during that time?
Oh, I'm not familiar with it offhand, Dave. No.
And because I understand there's only like about 7 co-signers so far, and I was just curious if you had co-signed or not with him, on that.
No, I'll look into it. HR 1419.
Correct.
Okay, I will look into it, Dave. I'm not familiar. Right now, there's probably, I'm guessing, we're over 2,000 bills introduced in the House just in the first few months. So, until something comes up, often the stuff that's under your committee's jurisdiction and things that may be getting some attention. But I don't know about this bill, Dave, but I'll look into it.
Okay, great. Jerry in Englewood, Colorado, listening to KABQ. Hey, Jerry, you're on the air with Congressman Mark Pocan.
Yeah, hi, Tom. Hi, Congressman. Thanks you both for everything you do. Congressman, my question is, when the Democrats resume control of Congress, whenever that might be, can you see them at any point, or yourselves at any point, invoking the provision in the Constitution that allows you to regulate the Supreme Court, considering the current composition of the court?
That's Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution, which says that the Supreme Court shall operate under regulations established by Congress.
Jerry, I can't say that there's been much discussion on that yet. I think, most of what we're focusing on is how do you get to that point that we can have the privilege of those great discussions and what we're going to do when we're in the majority. I think, it's been a long period since 2010 when we saw those devastating, sweep across the country because people didn't come out to vote. So, I think we can put just about everything on the table to look at when we take the majority. But until then, we're fighting the fight where we need to fight. We're putting the positive alternatives out there where we can. But I can't say there's been any discussion about that among members, at least widespread discussion.
It seems like that the main reason to do that would be to basically flip Citizens United. I mean, there has been legislation, it's called court stripping, in the past that says the court may not deal with this piece of legislation. The most recent one was one that Tom Daschle got passed when he was in the Senate that had a court stripping provision in it. It was an ag bill, actually. But denied the Supreme Court the ability to do that. But mainly, I think it would be used against Citizens United. It's an interesting conversation we'll have to have someday in more depth. We're talking with Congressman Mark Pocan. He is the first vice chair of the the Congressional Progressive Caucus, member of the House of Representatives representing Wisconsin's 2nd District, right next door to Paul Ryan. Pocan.house.gov is the website. His Twitter account, Rep. Mark Pocan.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And back with more of your calls for the Congressman right after this.